wonderful place called Thailand where you could, the fruit tasted so good it would, make your ball shrivel, and stories like that. So I thought, well, we've got to try this. So I suggested, why don't we go on this guys rampaging 2-month backpacking holiday, rape and pillage, etc., blah blah blah, through Thailand, and we'll write all our Black Mamba sketches, or at least get the first draft out. So Benny and I set off on the 25th of November 2004. Now, I knew I was going to be published, but the book was only going to come out in a year's time, which was always the most frustrating thing about being published for the first time. And it's now not a problem, because now, as soon as I finished it, the publishers whipped the manuscript away and charged it off to the printers immediately, after checking all the errors. But we set off for Thailand, and we just had this amazing time hopping through the islands, and in the afternoons we would write, and we would just brainstorm, and we were brainstorming ideas. It was a very creative time and a very exciting time. Until the 26th of December 2004, when I was sitting in the Andaman Sea, a beautiful little island at the top of the beach, in Boma, having my coffee. And suddenly I heard this Thai man screaming into a cell phone, and then hysterically charging into his office, ripping out the computer, and then running up the hill with the computer from the main reception area. So I looked around, strange people in Thailand, whatever, ordered some coffee. My coffee arrived, and looked up at the sea, and it was a perfect day. And you must imagine that it was almost like Mauritius. It's just that flat sea where there's no waves. It just looks perfect. And I said, what's going on here? Why is there so many rocks sticking out of the water? And I was like, it's springtime today. Oh yeah. Turn around, springtime, don't worry, everyone, just, And then this large sound, like a massive jet engine that came from the horizon, and this very large, beautiful turquoise wave just seemed to stand up and come roaring towards the beach. Now, I've often dreamt about tidal waves. I didn't know the word tsunami until after this had happened. Tidal waves, I often dreamt about, and quite often I'm running through Drakensberg with the tidal wave, following closely behind, but me keeping a good distance ahead of it, only narrowly closing on me. And I always run away from it, but when I did see it, I have to confess that I walked towards it. I just thought it was beautiful, and I wanted to see what was going on. So I had my coffee cup in one hand and my wallet in the other, and I sort of walked to the front, and I was like, wow, look at this, and look at that boat doing flip-flaps, that's amazing. I'm still thinking springtime, as you do as a Durbanite, he spends his time on the beach. The next minute, everything was floating, in the restaurant, and I was holding onto a pole like this, still holding my coffee like this, and my wallet like that, and everything was floating from, the chairs and the tables, and it wasn't. Luckily for us, we were protected because we were sheltered from an island, or else I think I wouldn't be here today. Ben was in the ablution box and missed the entire tsunami, which to this day is probably the worst thing that's happened to him, because it's horrible to tell people you were doing your morning ablutions when it was you might just rather say you were there watching him come back. Anyway, waves floated past me, but I was like, in the sense of, the only thing I could think about was, who do I pay for the coffee? Coffee in Thailand is about 50 cents, so, but my brain just didn't really work at that time, and you can't quite believe that the sea has suddenly risen up and taken over the land. Then, all hell broke loose. We were stranded. It was such a small island, and we were marooned in this island, and the Navy basically put a ban on all boating, and we just stayed on this island for about 5 days, and battling to get some information. First, we heard that the first thing we heard was George Bush had dropped an atom bomb in the sea, in the Indian Ocean, and trying to bomb Indonesia. And we were all like, oh yeah, that'll be it, that'll be it. That's the most recent kind of explanation. And then we heard earthquakes, we heard all these stories, and then they brought back the TV, which they'd run up into the bush as well, and we started seeing the horror of what was unfolding around us, and the fact that we were right in the middle of this. The island that was protecting us, we were no more than about 800 k's from the epicenter of the quake, with nothing between us and the quake, apart from this little island in front of us, where it was a ski boat up in the trees, and the whole thing was devastated. And that had saved us, because I would have been gone, especially walking towards the wake. So once again, I thought, God's after me, and I resolved that if whatever happened in this flood, I would continue writing, and I would just continue pumping out as much as I could to keep I suppose, the energy alive. And I suppose it was the timely reminder once again that life can be incredibly short. So now people ask me why I always knock off characters. And I think perhaps the idea of death is very interesting to me because it's something we all fear, but it's something that's going to happen to us all as well. So moving on from death, I know this Sunday morning, I'm sorry to put that in there, but if you understand that, then you understand the fervency and perhaps the mania that is in this fight, the sense of it's something charging on the inside, that time is ticking and we've got to get this done. Anyway, I'm going to fast forward because the last time I was here was the Man's Continues tour, which went from 2007, 20th of June until the 17th of July. After that, I felt like committing suicide. It was the most draining experience in my life. I got sick of being myself. I got sick of the words coming out of my mouth. I got sick of being me. I got sick of spud. I got sick of everything. And my girlfriend and I decided that the only way to get around this was to really escape. And it was more escaping for myself, because it's not as though I'm like David Beckham, who has people dashing on the door saying, you know, what colour are your underpants? But it was more just to get away from everything. And I mean, all so much, 500 Mamba shows, 2 books, 3 book tours, etc., etc. I then had a very tough parting with Ben Voss, my acting partner, and we started the screen together in a way as 2 young actors. We turned professional together, if you want to call it that, although we weren't very professional in the early days. But we had made a living. We now created this Mamba thing that was big, and it was very tough to walk away from that and to walk away from being an actor, because being an actor is what I always wanted to do.